Sorry. Welcome, my lovely sisters and brothers. Welcome this morning with another live book reading. Today, as you can see, we will get to know more about the Machine Kingdom. The Machine Kingdom is in actuality the world where the overlords are residing. And humanity is happily terraforming this earth in a materialized version of the astral realm machine kingdom. So, what is in the astral is now being builded here on earth. So, humanity is making, in actuality, a replica of the astral realm machine kingdom. The machine kingdom in the astral realm is the lowest of the lowest realm. So it operates on the lowest of the lowest of the lowest frequency band. So, being this said, means that humanity is terraforming its own home world um, into a world that doesn't suit the human race at all. And in actuality, humanity is sucking itself deeper away in the swamp and deeper into lower frequency bands. In actuality, this means you almost can say that humanity is bringing itself into the yeah, you can say the second dimension instead of third dimension that we are in. We are already in the lowest frequency band of the third dimension, and the machine kingdom is in actuality already going more into the 2D frequency band. So, is this what we humans want? Is this how we see us? Is this what we think about ourselves, that we are not being able to grow out of this? If you know that we humans are in actuality having 12 strands of DNA, which the overlords deliberately have closed. So they only have given us two DNA strands to operate on, which are probably the first and the second strand. On top of that, the overlords made sure that we even are not able to use the full potential of the first and second DNA strand by creating the double helix as a lock onto these two operating DNA strands. We need to realize that we are far more than the overlords are. The overlords have programmed us in such a way that we falsely became to believe that we are indeed not that much. So we need to remember that we are far more than the overlords are. We need to remember that we are creators ourselves. We need to remember that we have 12 strands of DNA. We need to see through all the indoctrination and lies that the overlords are feeding to us through their proxies and minions, whom we call oligarchs, cabal, elite, Illuminati, Templars, and whatever name that has been given to them. They are just proxies and minions of one of the two overlords. Yeah. So we need to stop participating in the agendas of the overlords. We need to expose them. We need to help our fellow brothers and sisters in remembering whom they are. We are 12 stranded DNA human beings. We have spirit. We have a spirit body. We are creators ourselves. We do not have to use technology. If we would operate on 12 strands of DNA, then we could create directly from the divine source, creating source, and then create. So, because of the ability that we have spirit, we can communicate with Prime Creator itself. And so, we can create, sorry for my voice, we can create with and through our spirit. Technology is only being used by beings who lack spirit, who cannot create with and through a spirit. But we don't have this problem. So the overlords have no spirit. They lack this, and so they cannot create with and through spirit. They need technology. And besides of that, the overlords themselves are completely stripped away from their creative abilities. So they need humans to create for them. They need humans to do their bidding on earth. They need humans to accomplish their agendas. Let this sink into you. This is what is going on in this world. All the crap that the talking heads through social media, mainstream media, television, and whatever we have are telling us is bullshit, is nothing more than distraction, derailment, making sure that we are busy with all sorts of things instead of the things that are truly are of great importance. All these psyops are carefully crafted by the overlords to have us constantly distracted and derailed from the thing that is really important. What is really important for us to remember whom we are and that we start to communicate with our own spirit. And so that we start to remember whom we are, so that we start to use our spirit. It is by using and communicating our spirit that we can get out of this world and out of this machine kingdom. This machine kingdom, this singularity and metaverse is directly connected with this machine kingdom. It's about time that you stop having your fingers in your ears, and it's about time that you stop being an ostrich. All right. So today we are going deeper into the machine kingdom. And I'm still reading from the story of Isis and the War on Bloodlines, written by Wes Penry. All right. The machine kingdom is a term that was coined by Barbara Marciniak's Pleiadians who channel through her. It is a very appropriate name for a long period stretching from, we could say, the later part of the 18th century and through our days. It is a term that perfectly embraces the entire scientific and technological movement, beginning with the so-called Enlightenment. And the Enlightenment is not what people think it is. They have deliberately brought this whole idea of enlightenment in such a way that people got an idea of going to so-called 5D and whatever you have. But this has nothing to do with enlightenment. Enlightenment has to do with the agendas of the overlords. Yeah. The new era of Lucifer, so to say. We may argue that the Middle Ages was a dark time in human history, where the chasm between the rich and poor was profound and most people lived in poverty, got diseases, and died young compared to now, when we live in a higher density. But if we analyze this, is this true? Well, if we look around us, we can say that humanity has become sicker than ever. There are far more laboratory created diseases. Um, and are humans happy these days? No, they aren't. We see a lot of depression. We see a lot of unhappy human beings around us. So you can say that technology is not for our best interest at all. What I said before, we do not use this. We do not have to use this. We do not need it at all. So we need to see through all the things that are happening and start seeing the real deal, raw reality that is being played out. So are there changes in comparison to the Dark Ages? No, there are not. There are not any form of changes. Only the stage scenery changed. But in actuality, you can hardly speak of changements. I have for long argued that the overlords want us to decrease our vibration to meet them in the lower density. So this is why they are commanding from us humans to terraform this earth into a machine kingdom so that we can be on the same vibration as the overlords are. Do we want this same vibration? No, we don't. Does this bring us more disease and illness and unhappiness? Oh yes, it does. And I'm going to say that these overlords are in actuality not worth to meet, um, and these overlords are not worth at all to be seen. Um, So I have for long argued that the overlords want us to decrease our vibration to meet them in their lower density, which is um, their density, the kingdom of machines, comma, devices, and all forms of technology. Yeah. So now you get to understand why we have become addicted to technologies. This is on purpose done. On the surface, it may look we have so-called ascended, but in actuality, we do not to some degree. But I would argue this is a total illusion. Indeed, we can now live more comfortably in our houses and apartments because we have steady wages and usually know what to expect from month to month. But our existence has at the same time become more solid and isolated. We have moved deeper into matter. And are we living a real comfortable life? No, we don't. And if we look what is going on right now, the overlords are stealing our free will. Yeah, they do this very cleverly. Um, in such a way, it is being they do this on a subtle level so that we humans do not see that we are more and more giving up our free will. Because in the singularity dash metaverse, when people are in a hive mind, free will is not necessary anymore. So why bother free will? This is the dangers that we are facing right now. We are facing the dangers of losing our sovereignty and our free will, which has been given to us as a gift, which makes us unique in that sense because we have sovereignty. Free will is something that the entire universe has. Um, so we are now seeing how cleverly the overlords are instigating all sorts of things to make sure that we give up our sovereignty and free will, and so eventually are ready to surrender ourselves completely into singularity, metaverse, machine kingdom, hive mind. Now you also get to understand why they try to have a worldwide demand for vaccinations. Machines need to be updated. The vaccine program has always been part in this construct of the of weakening the human body and to prepare the human body from inside out in becoming a cyborg body. A cyborg body needs updates, but because not, but because the hive mind is not yet there, they cannot do this through the hive mind. So they need an alternative route, so to say. And so vaccines are the alternative way to have this cyborg body updated. Because from what I came to understand, that Spirit told me already since the mid 90s, the vaccines already contain technologies, and so many people born after the 80s, in actuality, but better said, since the beginning 90s, they already have been receiving vaccinations with technologies in them. So this is also why the overlords are trying to enforce a demand that babies need to be vaccinated as soon as they come into the world. Why? Because as sooner as possible, the natural immune system gets the override by nanobots. The sooner this natural immune system will be transformed into a cyborg system. Yeah, so this is why that they are trying to demand from us humans to have our babies vaccinated. And the same is happening for animals. If you are vaccinating your animal, you are participating in this program by transforming the animal body in a syntoid cyborg body too from the inside out. So humans are killing everything because they lack knowledge in what they are in actuality doing, because they lack asking questions. They are not asking questions why they are doing what they are doing. They are just blindly following the overlords. Just a few of us are asking questions. During the Middle Ages, there were deeper connections and face to face interactions between humans than we have today, and we lived closer to nature. The human soul group as a mass consciousness is rapidly descending and deteriorating. We go in two directions. The major part is diving into the world of digital technology, which will lead to their downfall, while a smaller percentage is taking the opposite route and is trying to do their uttermost best to come back into nature again and make reconnection with nature again. Even though it is met with stubborn resistance from all kinds of places, of course, and those whom are extremely stuck in this digital technology world, they hate people whom are stubborn and who are not want to follow that route. So to lure humankind into the singularity, and I repeat this sentence again, to lure humankind into the singularity, comma, They, the overlords, must bring us down to the nightmarish realm of the calm kings, the Syrians, because the Syrians from the Sirius star system are here, and they are not so nice at all. They are very brutal and cruel, war-mongering beings, led by Marduk, which stands for Mara-Duke. This does not mean that we are physically going somewhere. Everything will play out here in the physical world. It is only a matter of vibrations, and we, as soon as we change our vibration, um, it also has an impact on our minds. So everything will be played out here in the physical world. It is only a matter of vibrations, comma, and we change our vibrations with our minds. As the Pleiadians said about humanity, you are going nowhere. You will stay here. The Khan Kings lower our overall frequency by by manipulating our minds. That is why they have brought to us television. And for Marduk, since his Louis the 14th or Louis XIV incarnation, this task became much easier. That was when he took over Earth in a giant coup d'etat by creating the new Marduk Ereshkigal bloodline. So now you understand why I had to go into the bloodline issues with the English royal house. Please go to these live book readings, then you understand this whole thing that is being said here. The majority of humanity is carrier of the Marduk Ereshkigal bloodline. Unfortunately, I would say, which since then has spread over the world and almost completely wiped out the pure Enki Isis bloodline. It was the Priory of Sion, the Knights Templar, and later the Rosicrucians who worked behind the scenes with the early Catholic Church to preserve the Jesus Magdalene bloodline. These three groups still collaborate to put the Merovingian bloodline back in the royal seats, but they are hopelessly working against the current. I bet Marduk doesn't care. He sees these organizations as no threat to his own new world order. And lovely brothers and sisters, this new world order thing has nothing to do with the changements of the human leaders. This new world order thing is all about the singularity and artificial intelligences. That is the new world order, not the human beings that they try to falsely make us believe, to distract us from the real deal new world order, which is the singularity, metaverse, artificial intelligence. That is the new world order that will reign over humanity. That is why we already hear about the artificial intelligence that is awaiting behind closed doors, that is far more advanced and is able to rule the human race. This is also one of the reasons why they instigated this pandemic in 2020 to see how well artificial intelligence was able to rule a so-called crisis situation, which was not a crisis at all, but a instigated, planned crisis enforced onto us to make us falsely believe that there was a crisis, but it was nothing more than a beta test for the artificial intelligence in seeing how they would operate. So wake the heck up, I would say, because they are already planning a new pandemic. They are already busy with this, and they deliberately did not do anything between 2021 and now to make us falsely believe that life is back to normal again. Is it? What is normal in any way, shape, or form? It's nothing more than a hollow word. A hollow word. It is an empty word. What is normal? But in the meantime, the overlords are working over hours, so to say, their minions and proxies too, and they, in between 2020 and now, already are doing simulations for a next rollout planned emic, which can happen this year or maybe next year. We do not know. But keep in mind that they are already breeding this plan out. And they are already, because in December, from what I came to understand, last December, they were already doing simulations on a next level of pandemic. We need to wake up, really. So, the New World Order is not about human leaders, it is about artificial intelligence, singularity, and metaverse that has been brought to us in a false way. The overlords, brought this as candy, so to say. So they made a representation of the singularity metaverse in such a way that we think falsely and start falsely believe that it is a nice world to be in. But it is the biggest hell ever created for the human race. If you want to speak in terms of hell, singularity metaverse is that hell. And that hell is already in this world. But the majority of human population does not want to see this. So, i.e., Enki's better said, I bet Marduk doesn't care. He sees these organizations as no threat to his own new world order. Enki's old secret societies belong to the old world order, i.e., Enki's order. Marduk has now quite securely established his new order, which is the singularity metaverse artificial intelligence. Why do you think Marduk is enforcing AI on us and enforcing us to use that and enforcing us to give away our human creative abilities and create through AI? Yeah, see through all this, hastening toward the singularity. Two separate agendas. It is all about Marduk against Enki. Yeah, that is the war that is being played out here on Earth. And you have proxies and minions that work for Enki and proxies and minions that work for Marduk. But this, lovely brothers and sisters, is the actual war that is being played out on Earth for uncountable thousands of years. This Earth and humanity are in the middle of it. We are being used, misused, and abused for this war. The same for Earth. So we need to wake up and see what is truly going on. So these two beings, Enki, Marduk, are in war with each other. They have their camps. And these camps are also in war with each other. Yeah, because of the fact that Marduk is in war with Enki and the other way around. So the camp of Enki is doing everything to make sure that Enki still holds grip. But Marduk's camp is also doing everything to make sure that Marduk can still pull the strings here on Earth. Do you get this? This is very important. So two separate agendas, Marduk against Enki. After having followed my nose and the path in which my new research has taken me, I have come to some new conclusions, which may surprise some readers. For years, I considered Enki and Marduk to have the same agendas. They just wanted to play it out slightly differently. Still, their common goal was the singularity, and here it comes. Both Enki and Marduk have the ultimate goal eventually to go in near future into a gigantic cosmic war against Orion universe. This is their plan. This is why they need singularity. This is why they are trying to take over our spirit body. This is why they want to lure our soul and spirit into technology and to have them trapped in it. It's all for this stupid cosmic war against Orion universe. Because Enki wants to have the throne there, but Marduk also wants to sit on the Orion throne. Enki because he got rejected by the queen and the king of the Orion universe. Marduk because he wants the Syrian system be the ruling system in the universe. Do you get now this whole picture that is being played out here on Earth? So, still their common goal was the singularity and the attack on Orion. Over time, Marduk got the upper hand, unfortunately, because he was continually incarnating here on Earth, working closely with humankind, while Enki was stuck in the Apsu/abyss and must work remotely. I now deeply doubt this in the light of new information and insights. I was also of the impression there was a first attempt toward the singularity just before the flood when Enki feverishly worked on several genetic projects that eventually destroyed the entire human experiment, leading to the deluge. I now consider this to be false. First, there was no attempt to create a singularity during the Atlantis era, and second, Enki never wanted the singularity, which is Marduk's plan in its entirety. He completely tricked the trickster god, who is the God of the Old Testament, that is Enki. The new God of the New Testament is Marduk, who could not see what was coming until it was too late. And then he could do nothing about it. Trapped as he was in the Apsu, he must trust his human minions in high positions. And I would suggest all of them, save for two, Secret Society and a few others, perhaps have switched sides and are now working for Marduk. The switch happened during and after the reign of Louis XIV or Louis XIV. I will dedicate much of this chapter to these new concepts. I will also discuss what I believe Enki wanted all the time and what he worked toward, but has now more or less given up, realizing he is beaten in his own game. And the agenda changed with the so-called Enlightenment movement, which has to do with the new level of the so-called light bearer, which Marduk is, because Marduk also represents in a certain way this Lucifer picture being. Lucifer's rebellion revisited in more depth. In the Westbury papers, I wrote extensively about the so-called Lucifer's rebellion, which is a term referring to Enki's rebellion against Orion. So now we are dealing with a Marduk who wants to do the same. Yeah, but his version. So Marduk wants to create a new so-called Lucifer rebellion, but his version of it. He wants to represent himself as the new Lucifer. While writing the Westbury papers, I had no time frame for when this rebellion occurred. Now I have a better understanding. It did not happen during the destruction of Tiamat, our original home planet. It happened at the time of Noah's flood. I put Enki as the mastermind behind the invasion and destruction of our home planet, but he had nothing to do with it. He was working with the queen of the stars, Sophia, who is the queen of Orion/Orion, his brother, Prince Ninurta, and the Vulcans from Vega to terraform Tiamat and create the human soul group. And there are many Vulcans trapped in, indeed, volcans, yeah, volcanoes, and they are trapped there. We were the first and only soul group that was created without technology. And our home was in the Ka, which is the spirit universe, and not in the physical material universe, which is the case with other star races. So other star races are using technology also because they are in actuality living in a far more materialized universe. Thus, the queen of the stars, Sophia, created us from her blood slash DNA and made us mini copies of her. So we are in her image, yeah, to use a visual metaphor. Enki had hoped to be the second donor of DNA, the queen being the first, to insert into the newborn humans so they could appoint him the overseer of humankind. But as conveyed elsewhere, the queen and her consort, Kan and Lil, rejected that idea, even though Enki was the queen's firstborn, so to say. Instead, they choose his brother, Prince Ninurta, who is Prince Enlil, to rise to the occasion. Thus, we still have Ninurta's DNA floating in our veins. And he was appointed as the overseer of the human soul group and was given our solar system as a, between quotation marks, gift from his mother, the queen. This infuriated Enki, who considered it his birthright to take care of all this. And so we now start to see the root of narcissism. Yeah? But the queen and Kan and Lil did not want Enki's DNA inserted into the humans, which might give us his rather narcissistic traits, such as feeling entitled, being superior to others, and grandiose in thinking. These were the exact traits the mother wanted to avoid in the human soul group. So now you understand where narcissism is coming from. Yeah? Moreover, they considered him too spontaneous and impulsive to handle that much responsibility. His younger brother was much better suited, they thought. Enki hated his brother from that day onward, but he did not revolt yet. Instead, he was put second in charge of the project under Ninurta's supervision. Enki felt betrayed and intimidated since no one seemed to believe in his abilities. In his mind's introject, he was more than capable of accomplishing the task they gave to Ninurta, and he probably thought he could do this better than him. All this was what started the conflict between the two brothers, a conflict that was affecting um, a conflict that has affected humankind miserably, a conflict in which we have been affected since the day Tiamat was destroyed. To put the record straight, the invasion was purely a Syrian affair, and it was planned and executed by the Syrians themselves. This action came as much as of surprise to Enki as to the rest of the Orion team. So, what happens now is that Sirius wants to have full dominion over this earth. So the kings of the Sirius star system wants to rule over this world, and they do this through their Khan king Marduk. Yeah. Um, no one apparently saw it coming. So the Orions knew some Khan kings disagreed with the Orion Council about the ownership of the solar system. So see for this the Orion books from the same writer Wes Penry. They thought that via the peace agreement with Orion, the Khan kings owned this part of the galaxy, which included our solar system. Orion had another viewpoint on that. So when the queen used, between quotation marks, their planet to create the human soul group, the Syrians rebelled and attacked. During the attack, Marduk was duped, the new Kanus, Kanur, better said, the king of kings. Now you get the understanding where this phrase in the Bible comes from. It's a Syrian phrase, king of kings, and it refers directly to the Khan kings and thus to the Syrian kings of the Syrian star system over the Syrian soul group, and he was the one destroying Tiamat, which is also confirmed in the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation story, which you can download free online. The destruction of Tiamat was supposed to end the human experiment, and it was a failure for Ninurta, who lost the battle against Marduk and the Khan kings. And he fled, taking many human Namlu'u with him into safety. He could not maintain the guardianship of the solar system and the human soul group as they knew it. Then was no more. Many of us, because of the shock when our home planet exploded, went into comatose state for 1,000 years. This gave Enki plenty of time to terraform our current planet, Earth. We do not know how Enki felt about Tiamat's destruction, but we cannot help but wonder if he was quite pleased that his brother failed to protect the human soul group. This gave Enki a great opportunity to shine. He suggested Orion gave him a chance to prove that he could continue the experiment and help graduate compassionate, empathetic beings. He wanted to oversee a second construct, Earth, to prove to his mother and Orion in general that he was worthy of such a task and could prosper at it. We do not know why Orion agreed to this, but perhaps now, after the first failure, they wanted to give Enki this chance after all. So the queen had invested a lot in the human soul group, even given us her spirit. And if there was any chance to make the experiment work, she was probably in favor of it. So the Orion Council gave Enki the green light, but with one caveat: Orion must put their own overseers on Earth to supervise Enki's creation. Again, Enki's brother became that supervisor, most likely to Enki's annoyance. And I would argue the queen put Isis here too, her being of Ninurta's blood and spirited. Queen Sophia moved her from being an overseer of the Sirius star system to helping with overseeing the Earth experiment instead. It appears the Queen puts her, between quotation marks, daughters as overseers on developing worlds to re-establish order when there is turmoil, conflict, or unrest. What happened next is written at the beginning of this book and in my earlier work. The bottom line is that Enki's goal was to prove to his mother that he could do this and thus regain his status as the heir of Orion after Kam and Lil if something happened to him. This is Enki's sole purpose up to this day. Unfortunately, he is a narcissist, and as such, he is prone to making mistakes that he does not take responsibility for. So, this is a pattern we see in narcissistic relationships. Narcissists never take responsibility for their mistakes. They always shove it onto the plate of their partner slash supply. And this is exactly what we are seeing in the entire governmental structure. No one takes responsibility. No politician wants to burn their fingers on responsibility, on taking responsibility for the mistakes they make. My Orion source gave me a good example of his thinking process. He told me how Enki operates and how he faces his mistakes and failures. Enki, Enki, his mind works like this. In his mind, he says, "Oh, what have I done? Oh, well, no use of crying over spilled milk." This means he never follows up on his errors and leaves them for others to clean up. This is exactly what we see in this world. He is impulsive and does not think through his decisions deeply enough. Marduk, in juxtaposition, is a full-blown psychopathic tyrant that is now ruling our world. Now we understand why we see an increase of psychopathy in this world. Is a psychopathic calculator and he thinks through every step of his action beforehand, very carefully. He knows exactly what he is doing. Once upon a time on Sirius, his life depended on this. Dribbling with extensive genetic tinkering, which is something Enki dedicated himself to at the end of the Atlantis construct, appears to have been another example of his impulsivity and lack of responsibility for his actions, leading to a second destruction of human experiment. The Lucifer rebellion happened when Kam Enlil, on behalf of his and the Orion Council's decision, commanded Enki to instigate a flood to bring the Namlu'us home to Orion, to bring us, humans, human soul group, back home to Orion. Since he had destroyed the experiment with his tinkering, Enki ferociously protested, telling the council humankind was, in his belief and mind, his creation, and his blood runs through human veins. Thus he said he could claim ownership of this soul group, and it was his experiment now. Although it is true it was Enki who created our Homo sapiens bodies, the soul group never belonged to him. No, we belong to the Queen of the Stars. Only the bodies, at best. However, according to Orion's laws or rules, it appears that a creator god, Enki, in this case, who creates a soul group, where part of it is to add their own DNA to the bodies of the particular developing world, can claim ownership of that soul group, claiming it his or her creation. This is reasonably, although in our case this was not Enki's experiment in the first place. He was only allowed to continue an already existing Orion experiment. This time on Earth, it is like putting a CEO over a company owned by someone else, and the CEO claims the ownership of the company because he has made the employees work well under his supervision. Enki was not even the CEO. Ninurta still was as the overseer. Enki was just the vice president, so to say. All this did not sit well with Enki, and he refused to eradicate and destroy the bodies he created. So he was destroying his own brand. But there was even more at stake than losing his creation. If the experiment was terminated, it meant he had failed, just like his brother, and he could not regain his position as the heir of Orion. The only way to do that would be to have a strong bloodline, where his blood ran purer in the human bodies than in Urta's. Then he could claim ownership of us as a creator god, so to say. So long as we were planet bound and had not graduated, this plan now went up in smoke. It went under water. He no longer had time to re-establish a pure blood human soul group, and the only bloodline left on earth was his pure blood, was Noah and his sons. Openly, he decided to go along with Orion's plans. So now you start to understand, hopefully, more the beginning of this storyline in the Bible about Noah. But covertly, he planned on continuing the experiment completely on his own, without Orion's supervision. So he also hijacked an unknown number of free unit composites, which are you and I. This means soul, mind, spirit, body. And you and I are two of them. So Enki had not given up on regaining his position in Orion. After the flood, the rebellion started. He managed to recruit a third of the angels, as it is being stated in the Bible, the Orange Book, and elsewhere. But which angels? The, between quotation marks, angels who were here in the second construct, dash the Syrian calm kings. Not everybody joined Enki in his rebellion, only a third of the crew that was stationed on Earth. So the term angel, between quotation marks, I would argue, comes from the fact that they can, between quotation marks, fly, comma, I.E. They are not of this world and can disappear into the air. Marduk continued following Enki into the third construct, what is now called the matrix, and we might ask ourselves why he wanted to do so. I would suggest he did it because he saw an opportunity in Enki's rebellion that he told no one about back then. Enki wanted to be the king of Orion one day, and he wanted to do it by strengthening the Enki-Isis bloodline and prove himself. Thus he needed Isis in his new construct as well. Whether Isis followed voluntarily, I do not know, but she got stuck here with us and soon became a breeder for the two conspirators, for Enki and Marduk. Enki never wanted the singularity. That was not on his agenda, and I think nothing he had ever considered. This was Marduk's plan from the beginning. So this means that we humans are terraforming our home planet into something, into a design that Marduk is wanting us to design it in. Yeah, this is not our own design, totally not. So this was Marduk's plan from the beginning, which he kept secret. An attack on Orion by him and his fellow Khan kings would make him the king of Orion universe, and thus Orion universe then can slowly become the universe of Sirius. Yeah, and so this means that the Sirius star system then becomes a greater system. This is the whole plan. So an attack on Orion by him and his fellow Khan kings would make him the king of Orion if he was victorious. Enki thinks he can regain power in Orion by proving he can do something his brother failed to do, making the human soul group evolve and graduate, having his own DNA as the primary DNA running through human veins that we call blood, but calling it DNA is more to the point. Thus he proves he is so-called better than his brother and should regain his title as the Crown Prince, the heir of Orion. Is if something happens to Khan Enlil, he would legally take his place. Marduk knows this does not apply to him, even if he manages to take over the human soul group, which he already did as the incarnation of Louis XIV, also known as Louis XIV. It is not enough. That would at best increase his status in Orion, if it wasn't for all the horrendous crimes he has committed, but he can never be the crown prince of Orion. That is a title for Orion royal family only. And if you do not have Orion DNA running through your veins, you can do all sorts of things, but you shall never become a king. Um, to declare among themselves. So that title is only for the Orion royal family to declare among themselves. And Marduk is only a Syrian. He is not even an Orion prince. Therefore, he must take so-called heaven by force. So now you get to understand that he needs the human soul group to do this job for him, as they say in the scriptures. So what is heaven? Yeah, in scriptures, in the Bible, often they refer to heaven, but what is this heaven? He becomes the biblical Satan. So Satan is Marduk. The way he plans to do this is to insert his DNA into the human bodies, which he already did when he and Ereshkigal created their bloodline, and then create metaverse, comma, the cloud, which is the new hive mind system, comma, human cyborgs, which is already going on from the inside out through the spraying of nanobots and everything that they can spray in the air that we inhale and eventually also eat up through the food and the things we drink. So, and with all that in mind, comma, the singularity, it is not enough to put humans in metaverse and, here it comes, trap, trap, trap us there. It's a trap. The singularity is a trap. Metaverse is a trap. The cloud surface is a trap to trap our soul spirit in. He also must create a dominant bloodline containing Syrian DNA, so he and his co-conspirators, the Khan kings, whom I am sure are clearly aware of what is about to happen, comma, can then write our human avatars, and so through our human avatars they can go into cosmic war with Orion and can invade Orion through the use of our human avatars. So this is why I am doing these book readings from this book, The ISIS Story and the War on Bloodlines, because it contains a lot of valuable information for us. And we need to realize that we have no time to spend any longer to play around and to have ourselves distracted constantly by stupid things, stupid psyops, and whatever the overlords are creating to have us completely distracted and derailed. So then they can write the human avatars as well, instead of Isis, Marduk most likely promised Ereshkigal to sit on the throne beside him if he takes Orion, overthrows Khan and Lil and the queen and puts himself on the throne right away. Ereshkigal, goddess forbid, will be the new queen of Orion, knowing that Ereshkigal is the queen of the underworld. So now I hope you get this picture clear that if there in Orion will sit on the throne a full-blown psychopath tyrant, and next to him is sitting also a full-blown female tyrant psychopath. Well, I don't have to paint for you the picture that will then be painted and how the Orion universe eventually will be and become one gigantic hell world. So, is this what we want? Well, I do not. So, this is why we need to understand what is truly happening in this world so that we can make conscious decisions if we want to participate in this singularity trap. Yeah, I do not want so. So I am doing my best to not participate in this, although it is quite difficult to do so. But there is an opportunity. Whether Marduk keeps his promise to her, indeed, because we know psychopaths are very egoistic persons. So it can be that eventually Marduk kills off Ereshkigal too, so that he can sit all by himself on the Orion throne. Um, Marduk's empire. Uh-huh. And I need to do this. Yeah, oh wow, this is a very long chapter too. Um, I think I leave it here and start a next part. I'll take this Marduk's Empire because we're over an hour. Um, Marduk's Empire. We no longer need to worry about or pay much attention to Enki anymore. Um, He is castrated, impotent in all possible ways, and trapped in the Apsu, better known as Abyss. So we need to worry about this Marduk being. Yeah? He has no power over Earth anymore and no creative abilities, which means access to spirit, contrary to his so-called between quotation marks son Marduk. And this is all related to the Isis horror story. Marduk is now in control. So, whom is in actuality on the dollar bill? Well, the pyramid is on the dollar bill is in actuality referring to the Orion universe. The eye in the pyramid is in actuality not the eye of the Queen of the Stars, but the eye of Marduk. So the dollar bill is already telling us in plain sight that Marduk is in actuality the one that is ruling Earth. And it is his eye that is portrayed on this dollar bill. The royal families used to be Enki's people, but they now belong to Marduk because he took over the bloodlines by adding his DNA, which weakened Enki's. According to Orion's rules, he can, by that, claim the ownership of humankind. He is now both God and Satan. So, the God that is being worshipped by many believers is not God at all, that is Marduk. And the one they are fighting against through spiritual warfare is Satan, who is also Marduk. I would further argue that John the Divine, who channeled the book of Revelation, channeled Marduk, not Enki. The Revelation much better exposes Marduk's agenda. So the book of Revelation is in actuality telling Marduk's plan. And so now you see how we are being misled because they have brought the storyline in such a way that people have a understanding about this book of Revelation that is not really the understanding that we need to have, because many believers are not willing to dive deeper into history. They lack to inform themselves and they lack to educate themselves. So, this whole book of Revelation is telling Marduk's plan for us and this world, what he has in mind for us, what he plans to do with us. I hope you get to see this now. So, this revelation much better exposes Marduk's agenda than it does Enki's. And I would say the global elite is a mix of Syrian um, two unit composites, which means only uh, soul mind, and human three unit composites, which means soul mind spirit body, since many elite bodies were taken over by the Syrian prisoners, who Enki rescued from their imprisonment after they were incarcerated in the Syrian Black Star by Khan Enlil for being war criminals. So we are also dealing with war criminals from the Syrian star system. Enki put these fugitives in the elite bloodlines, in the elite bodies. The kings and queens, however, are human three-unit composites. This is an important distinction because both Enki and Marduk need these bloodlines to be housed by humans so they can claim them and ride them. So this means that if you are mad on this Trump guy, you should look far deeper. Whom is ruling this Trump guy in the United States? Whom is the overlord that is using that human body? We need to see through all things. Yeah? So, and the same for presidents, and the same for many politicians. Many of them are being taken over by the overlords and their cohorts. So you cannot be mad on the person. You should start to see deeper. And you should ask yourself the question, whom is ruling this human? Whose camp is taking over this human being? That is far more important. And then you get to see why this person is doing what she is doing. For example, many are, pointing fingers to the elite, but if you lack this information, it is not helping you at all. Marduk pretended to go along with Enki's agenda, probably promised a lofty position in a future Orion with Enki as the heir. Enki needed him to help strengthen his Isis and Ninurta's DNA. Marduk was the best choice to insert more of Enki's blood into humans after Enki's imprisonment, since Marduk, being the so-called son of Enki, also carried Enki's blood. But of course, when the time was ripe, he took over the human experiment, and therefore no humans, or a few, have graduated from this construct yet. Some may have over the last 10 years or so by going through the holes in the grid. More about this later. Today we see an almost complete Marduk usurpation of the earth. He is the King of Kings, who has also been said to be the King of Kings, Jesus. So Jesus is also the representation of Marduk because Marduk took over the body of Jesus. the Kanur, even on earth, which is now, according to him, Syrian domain, just like it should always have been, seen from a Syrian viewpoint. So now I hope that you can understand why we are seeing the rise of tyranny and psychopathy, because these Syrian star beings are very tyrannical beings. And Marduk is a full-blown tyrant, seen from a Syrian viewpoint, since they think they own the solar system. We can see his DNA spread among humans as more and more humans become narcissistic and psychopathic. What do we see in our governmental construct? A representation of Marduk's mindset, because those beings, those people, those humans are in actuality deeply narcissistic, and some of them are both deeply narcissistic and psychopathic, I mean. So we see that our politicians are more and more fulfilling the mindset of Marduk, yeah? The latter being a direct consequence of Marduk's DNA intervention. Many humans become akin to him. They are becoming into the image of Marduk, the false god. This is very interesting information. So many humans become akin to him, and he encourages it. We need to meet him on his vibration slash density, so he can easily manipulate and control each one of us, leading us into the singularity, and so trapping us into the singularity, into the cloud, into metaverse, like happy, obedient fools. So we need to step out of this, yeah, like cows to the slaughterhouse. Yeah, and now you also need to ask yourself, why is it that we are constantly being named sheep? Because sheep are far more obedient than cows in actuality are. Cows, if you watch and observe cows, in actuality, cows are more like doing their own thing. Sheep do not. Sheep are blindly following their herd. All right? With this said, I have come to the end of the first part of reading this chapter 17 of the book, the Story of Isis and the War on Bloodlines, written by Wes Penry. Please go to the mentioned websites and buy yourselves this book also, and start reading it yourselves. It is loaded with a lot of interesting information, and information that we truly need to know. All right, I want to thank you for listening along, for tuning in through Facebook, through Rumble, through YouTube. And please share all these live book readings that I have done the last 3-4 weeks. They contain a lot of information. Go watch them, go share them. People need to know this. We need to help to wake up our brothers and sisters. And as last, I want to say, enjoy your day, and let us listen to a short piece of music created by Band Sound, which is called Hope. If I can, yeah. And thank you again for listening, and have a good, beautiful, joyful day filled with a lot of love, wisdom, and revelations, all coming from your own spirit. See you next time with part 2 of this chapter.